Hey guys, how's it going? So in this video, we're going to look at plane figures. Okay, so we have a bunch of different types of figures that we're going to go over. Okay, so the first one is probably the most straightforward one. So when you have something like this, so we can see that we have 1, 2, 3, 4 right angles, right? That little box, right? Each of these little boxes right in here, right, are right angles. So each of those signify a right angle. So when you have a figure with 4 right angles, we know that it's either a square or a rectangle, right? So when somebody says, they show you this and they give you the option of needing to say, what type of figure is this, right? And they give you like parallelogram and trapezoid and square and rhombus. It's a square because it's got 4 right angles. It has to either be a square or a rectangle. Okay, so given this, they could easily say, so let's say we have like angle A is up here, angle B here, C, and D. Okay, and then they say, what is angle B? How much does angle B equal? Okay, so each of these angles are going to be 90 degrees. So angle B is 90, angle D is 90. All 4 of them are going to equal exactly 90 degrees. So that right angle signifies a 90-degree angle, right? And that's how we know that. Okay, and then we also have with a square, you'll have 4 equal angles, or 4 equal sides rather, right? So if they say something like this, let's say area equals 500, and they want to know, given the area is 500, how much is line AB? Okay, equals something, right? Okay, and so because of that, what we want to be thinking is, okay, if all of the sides are equal, right, then, like, we'll draw this again over here. It's kind of a mess at this point. So we have the square. We know that its area is 500, so the length times the width is going to be 500, right? So when we multiply this over here times this over here, we're going to get 500. And we know those numbers are going to have to be the same, right? Because all the sides are the same, right? So in this case, it would end up that AB was 25, because 25 times 25 is 500, right? And so the easiest way that you're going to do that, rather than trying to figure it out, is to just plug in the answer choices, right? And so the answer choice of 25 would be correct. Okay, so that's plane figures with square and rectangle. So to review, 4 right angles, that's really probably the most key part here. If you have 4 right angles inside a figure, you know that it's either a square or it's a rectangle, okay? And when you see those 4 right angles, that means each angle, right, is 90 degrees. And you also have 4 equal sides. So those are the big parts there. Decent amount to remember even there. All right, so you may have to watch the video a couple times and then practice interacting with the stuff so that you got it, right? But nothing too terribly hard to understand, I would not think. It's just a matter of committing that stuff to your memory. Okay, now we'll look at a parallelogram. Okay, so you're gonna see something like this. Something that looks like a rectangle. For parallelogram. Okay. And our 2 big points, and we'll have like this, you'll typically see this for kind of like all the plane figures, A, B, C, and D. Okay, and 2 big points here. Opposite sides are equal. We'll just do a little equal sign for the sake of time. Opposite sides are equal, and opposite sides are parallel. Okay. Opposite sides are both equal and parallel. Okay, so for example, if they told us that angle B, all right, so let's say they say that angle B equals 100. Okay, so we know that right here we have 100, right? Okay, and so we know that opposite sides are both equal and parallel, right? So if angle B is 100, then we know that angle D is 100, okay, because they're opposite, yeah? Okay, so angle B and angle D are 100. And so what if they're telling us we want to find angle A? Okay, so we need to know that the whole parallelogram, this rectangle, adds up to 360 degrees. That's extremely important to know. If we don't know that, there's no way we'd be able to find angle A. Okay, but right now we know the total is going to be 360. And we got two numbers here, C and A. So we know they're going to be equal as well, right? Because they're opposite. Okay, but we don't know what they are. Okay, so we know we have 100, right? And then we know we got another 100. And then we got two variables that we don't know what they are, right? X and X again, right? That's A and C. Okay, so then if we combine that up, we got 200 plus X is 2X equals 360. Okay, and so now we're just more into doing some algebra, right? If we subtract 200 from both sides, then we're going to have 2x equals 360 minus 200 is going to be 160. Okay, then we divide each side by 2. 160 divided by 2 is 80. Okay, so that means C is going to be 80 and A is going to be 80. Okay, and then there's our answer, right? So that's how you would do something like that for a parallelogram. So again, parallelogram, opposite sides are equal and parallel, right? So most likely the part about the opposite sides being equal is going to be more important thing to commit to memory. And remembering when we're adding up this figure, the total is 360. So you're really going to have to know the total being 360, right? Once you do that, then you can really set up the math, right? Right, and so kind of reviewing again what we did, right? They told us that angle B was 100. That's all they gave us. And then they're asking us to find angle A, right? And so the way that we do that, right, we knew that opposites were going to be equal, so that D was also going to be 100 right here, right? And then A and C we weren't going to know. We needed to solve that by doing a little algebra, and that's what we did down below. Okay. If you have questions on these, if you're using the app, harder to ask questions, but everything in the app, these videos are embedded through YouTube, right? Or if you're watching it on YouTube, right? So you just go to the YouTube channel with the video, and then if you ask any questions, we'll get back to you, right? Or you can ask, through the app, like a comment in the App Store. If there's questions about, if you want to do it that way, we'll see it and we'll be able to answer it. Okay, so we got trapezoid and rhombus left. Okay, so for a trapezoid, you'll see something that looks kind of like that. I didn't really draw that perfect. It'd be more kind of like this at a little bit of an angle. Okay. Okay, so for a trapezoid, we know that at least one side is parallel. Okay, so like in this example, let's say it was this one down here and this one up here, but we know one of these sides is parallel. Okay, so if they say area equals 30. If AB, and so again we have like same thing as the others, A, B, C, D. If, let's see, if AB is 10, so that's what they're telling us. It gives an area of 30. AB is 10. What is line AD? How do we do this? Right? So AB is 10. So we know right now that is 10. We know the area is 30. They're asking us for line AD, right? And so then from here, all we have is we have 10. We don't know what AD is, right? We know we have 10, and then we'll just call it AD, just X right now. And we know when those two are multiplied together, you'll get 30, right? So from here, really, we just divide each side by 10, and X, which is line AD, is going to be 3, right? Because 30 divided by 10 is 3. So that means that line AD equals 3. Okay. And one more here. So that was trapezoid. And the last one will be rhombus. Okay, so rhombus looks an awful lot like a square. It looks like a square just sort of like flipped on its side a tiny bit. We'll draw that here in a second. Okay, rhombus, so it'll kind of looks like a diamond or something like that. Okay, but right, we would think like if we just flipped it a tiny bit, then all of a sudden it would look exactly like a square, right? Okay, so the one thing we don't have here is we don't have the 4 right angles. So if you remember from square always has 4 right angles, right? Where a rhombus could look just like a square really, but it doesn't, okay? So it looks similar to a square, doesn't have 4 right angles, but it does have 4 equal sides, okay? So for example, like if they say, okay, given that it's a rhombus and this side is 7, what is the perimeter? Okay, so perimeter means you add up all 4 sides, right? So if they give us that being 7, then we know this one's 7, this one's 7, this one's 7, right? So perimeter is just adding up 7 4 times, 7 plus 7 plus 7 plus 7, 28, right? And if given that one side was 7, if they wanted the area, then you're just going to multiply 7 times 7, and you would get 49. Okay, so that's all the stuff you really need to know for plane figures. Reviewing real quick, if you see a figure with 4 right angles, then it's either a square or a rectangle. Right, that will be your big key. And square also has 4 equal sides. The rhombus, which we just looked at, looks just like a square, except it doesn't have those 4 right angles, but it does have 4 equal sides. The parallelogram will look like a rectangle. Opposite sides will be equal, and opposite sides will be parallel. Okay, so what that really means, when those opposite sides are equal, is you'll see there's your rectangle. So like this and this will be equal, right? And this and this will be equal, right? And from there, a lot of times we'll have to do a little algebra like we did in our example to find out what, they'll give us the measure of one angle, right? So whatever they tell us x is here, it'll equal the same thing over here, and then we'll have to do a little algebra to figure out what these two equal. Okay, that's parallelogram, and then for trapezoid, we know that at least one side is parallel, and rhombus we just talked about. Okay, so that is everything for plane figures.